All right. So when it comes to like having a greater social impact in e-commerce, a lot of times people will say things like, oh, because, right? It's just an important thing to do. And that doesn't cut it, right? So I'm going to try to sort of build out some practical things and great examples of why, beyond just because, we should think about how to use these tools to promote greater sustainability and impact. So about a year ago, a survey came out from Klaviyo, and there was a lot of press around it where it said, oh my gosh, like 89% of people say that sustainability is important, but only 27% of people actually said they buy sustainable products on a regular basis. And then they had basically said, wow, these people all talk. Well, the question is, what's your starting point? So 6 years ago, there was a different survey a global survey from Nielsen, and it basically found that, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, only 10% of people said that they do it now, right? And so that's actually like almost a tripling of the number of people who basically said they're not just hopeful, they're actually doing it more. Cargill, a year ago, obviously it's a mega company, did a survey, and they found that over half the people say they're likely to buy consumer products that make sustainability claims. Well, that is what people again say. What do they do? And so one of my favorite sources of data that says there's a business case, if you will, for greater sustainability, and I'm going to mix in that concept of social impact into that, is that in the consumable CPG, so that's consumable products, the kinds of things you would buy at a grocery store, well over half of the growth, 54% of the growth, is coming from the 16% of products that use sustainability marketing in their claims. So over half the growth comes from sustainably marketed products. Right? And they also get a significant price premium. I mean, often it's it's organic, right? So it costs more for the materials that go in, or they pay a fair wage, and so on and so forth. But if just from the strict business case, like if you're trying to launch a new brand, or if you're trying to sell a product, the numbers say the growth is in sustainability. Again, I argue that also is in social impact. So like this glass is more than half full. And I think we're going to need to stop, slowing ourselves down because people don't do what they say. It's actually the momentum is clearly in this direction. So we're going to kind of give a tour like of a bunch of apps. They're not all on Shopify. Like GoodCarts, for example, is on multiple platforms, including WooCommerce. We had a question about that earlier. But you're going to see a Shopify centric presentation. And now I'm virtually in the hometown where Shopify was created. And I just want to give some kudos to Shopify. Last spring, we decided to do an article on the GoodCarts site. We do a lot of content marketing. And let's do an article celebrating all the amazing things that the e-commerce world is doing for social and eco impact. And then we basically abandoned the article partway through and said, oh my gosh, we'll turn this into a call for action to the e-commerce world, because beyond Shopify, we had a hard time, other than like Adobe, which owns Magento, making some claims around some community engagement types, like some CSR, corporate social responsibility activities. We didn't see a lot. We didn't see like just a whole range of activities. So there's actually something that Shopify does that is special, even though with their round of layoffs, you'll note that they continued their Build Native project. They continued their Build Black project. Their DEI related initiatives are strong. We certainly lost a lot of friends that were working at Shopify with social impact in general. And if you look at the technology community in reverse, they're doing the reverse, right? A lot of DEI related initiatives are going by the wayside. Shopify hasn't done that. And so GoodCarts, even though we're going to talk more about other brands, is very bullish on when Shopify says they want to arm the rebels. We believe it, and we think that those rebels can be even more socially conscious as well, and we want to build on that. So what does search say? So we've run ads on the Shopify App Store around sort of words like sustainability and eco-friendly and carbon offsets, just to kind of see whether we could promote our app by tapping what people were searching for. So this is like this data doesn't really exist anywhere else, you know, and it's subject to us actually having found the right keywords. We may have missed some, but essentially the top things that people are searching for in the App Store based on our analysis of our ad data are donations to charity. So people who are running stores are looking for apps that help people donate to charity or help them donate to charity based on purchases. The next one is carbon offsets. And then just sort of general eco-friendly terms, then sustainability, and then planting trees. Although I should note that I didn't have the word, I had plant tree, but not plant trees, and that can impact the results. The key there is that the searches for donations to charity apps are 4 times higher than the other 4 combined. So there's a lot of motivation around that. So I'm going to spend time talking about 2 apps in that space. So the next, before we dig into that specific examples, I wanted to say that, you know, how do you find these kinds of apps? So at the surface level, like the top links here are basically the keyword searches in the Shopify App Store. They're fine. But also our friends at ecommercetech.io have a cause marketing section in their sort of like best of app directory. Our good friends based in the UK with Mindful Commerce, they have a whole directory, not only of apps, but also service providers. So for example, let's just say, yeah, you're looking for apps, but maybe you're looking for, you know, sort of purpose-driven digital marketing agencies and other types of service providers. They have a great directory of that. We also have guidebooks on our site. In fact, we have over 85 articles. At the very end, I'll give some examples of that. And that's when we talk about content marketing. This is for those, if any of you are involved in sort of like serving the e-commerce brands, we've taken an approach instead of a bunch of cold email spamming people. We're trying to create a lot of valuable content, including this presentation, right? And finally, just to say, you can also troll around the B Corp and 1% for the Planet directory. You will not find very many apps there. You would just find more or less service providers that you might consider tapping. All right, so donation apps. The top 3 that are installed are, according to the sorting here, I sorted this by most popular. It's a little bit cut off on the edge there. We have Shopping Gives. We have Daily Karma, which has the Shop for Good donation app, and Zestard, which is sort of a general app, right? Zestard produces a whole bunch of different apps, and we're actually noticing a trend. DonateMate and DonateSource are new, and those apps, you know, it's so popular that people who just make apps are creating donation apps and of different varieties at different price levels. And then Virtue is an app in the UK. I'm not sure if anyone knows of a Canada-specific app for online donations, but I'll, you know, feel free to put that in the chat. Also, Gives is very interesting in Give and Grow donations, and I'm going to go a little deeper into Shopping Gives and into Daily Karma. The general idea is that when you shop, like with Shopping Gives, and there's obviously different features. There's a lot in rounding up and the like. In this case, you basically, they say how much you're going to donate, and then you get to choose. And so there is kind of this tension between like, well, the store choosing where the money goes to, and we definitely have lots of members in Good Cards, for example, where I check out. Okay, they say they're donating to charity. Who are they donating to? And they have 1 or 2 causes, which is fine. The Shopping Gives model, and typically the app model, is you basically have a catalog of charities that can be donated to, a little more empowerment to the user. And you can, again, find them on the Shopify App Store. They also serve other platforms. This is a little interesting little slide here from, I should just mention this. So Shopping Gives, one of the things that they talk about and I don't have the direct numbers with me today, but basically the business case for this is that a donation to charity increases your conversion rate. So people who are on your store are more likely to actually complete the purchase. The other piece is that average order value goes up, you know, and so people might be willing to buy more. So that's just kind of one of the business cases that they put out there. And then on Daily Karma, I like this slide because it talks about they can have a portion of the sales. You can round up to charity. The customer can choose the amount. They can actually donate extra. So there's different ways that people can add, an impact along with their purchase. So in this case here, there's a donate $1. I'll be talking about some tree apps as well. So this is rounding up basically to the nearest dollar, or you can donate a custom amount. All right. The next category is carbon neutral apps. And so there are general ones that basically will say something along the lines of, well, if you want this shipment to come to you carbon neutral, just add on a little price. And these are some examples: EcoCart, Carbon Click, Balance. There are honestly dozens now of apps in this space. Also, and I don't know the inner workings of this works exactly, but basically Shopify has claimed and says that if a store is using Shop Pay as part of the checkout, they're actually also building in tree planting for carbon offsets. So take a look if you're using Shop Pay as one of the payment processing, it's like the default processing system. So I understand it with Shopify. There may be some things that are already happening kind of behind the scenes, and there's a good article that links to. Notable here, obviously, is showing off kind of the impact, and it's hard. It's and there's so many choices, kind of analysis paralysis. But again, that link here will attempts to link them based on what other people have installed, right? Obviously, it's a bit of an incumbency advantage because all time, so there could be a new entrant you might want to check out. One of the things we notice with GoodCarts is that a lot of people just install the app just to try it, right? There's often a free tier. I don't know which ones have a free tier here. And that may be what you do, right? You take the time to install one for a month and then try the next one and try the next one and see which one works best for you. And obviously word of mouth, just talking to your peers about which ones they like can help you make the best choice for your store. Again, this is often connected to the carbon piece, right? I mean, it's directly connected in numerically, if you will. But there are some very specific tree planting apps as well. Plant Trees with Ecology, Sprout. That's one I just actually added to the list from last year when I first created a version of this presentation. And there are different models, and there's like concerns about to what extent are they saving a forest? Are they planting a tree? And so on and so forth. Some of you may know more about that than I do, but I'm definitely it's worth looking at the models, right? So like, for example, Tree Nation is a nonprofit. Ecology, I believe, works with, if I get it wrong, hopefully I don't get it wrong, but a lot of them are doing mangroves in Madagascar, for example. I've noticed a handful that do that. They also different partners. So you're going to kind of want to look below, under there and get a sense about how that works. People have told me things like, well, if they donated $1, it actually only it costs them 69 cents to plant that tree, and that's how in one way they're able to like make the whole network work, because they need to have a bit of a margin there. And others, again, this is, I believe it's the One Tree Planted. There you just add an extra $1 to plant the tree. All right. So it's not actually built into your purchase. You just kind of add it. So again, different models. Now, note this interesting slide here. There are more apps about purpose-centered kind of models. One that's really, it's going for larger and larger D2C brands. It's called Recurate. They were featured by the National Retail Federation in the United States last year on the stage. It's kind of up and coming, and they've attracted some significant funding. And what they're all about is basically allowing a brand to run their own resale platform. So essentially, if someone would say, well, sure, why don't I get the the used version of that? And you certainly maybe heard of Patagonia and others doing that. And so that's just one way to promote reuse. Which is very notable. I should mention, I don't know if it affects if you have Goodwill the same way we have it in the U.S., but it's a charity network. There's a site called Goodwill Finds, and so there obviously is a value in making sure people are also finding other ways to reuse the products. So just give a little shout out to Goodwill Finds, a newer site. Yeah. So that someone says that's us. Miranda, so I'd like to hear more about what that is. And then because so this is interesting. So they started as a very purpose sort of focused app where along the way you would tell the world about your impact and your social mission and the like. They just updated me that they are pivoted, right? And so you can actually put in a screenshot in here, and basically it's providing timely data less about the social impact and more about just information that helps people convert to make a purchase. And that's one thing to note is that, like, say you're thinking about creating an app, business wise, right? If you're not growing based on making the world a better place, if you will, you still got to figure out how to make your revenue, right? So you can be a sustainable enterprise in a financial sense. But I keep them in here because I think that they certainly allow you to message people, to nudge them along, to make that purchase where the impact can help convert the deal. We do have a related article about sort of the concept of like building that trust with your shoppers about your impact, going beyond sort of the helping give some assurance that you're not just a washing brand, how to have a good about section, how to have a sustainability section that discloses a lot of information. We do run into, when people try to join GoodCarts, we do review each brand, for example, to find the right circle. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But we run into a lot of stores that say, we donate a percentage of our profits to charity. Just want to say that and they don't even sometimes they don't even mention the charity. So we write back and say it's better to say we do donate a percentage of each transaction, because that way the impact is actually happening each time. Because your profit might be 10 years down the road or 5 years or a year down the road, right? I think people see through that right away if it just says a percentage of profit. The other piece there is that give a shout out, build the trust to say if the charity aspects of what you're doing are actually promoting the specific, say, local charity or certain cause, get that out there, get it on your blog, make sure your site shows your team members volunteering physically at an event, whatever it might be. If you're doing it, really show that it's happening. To claim an impact on charity, or just to let people donate to charity and not have it kind of come a little bit out of your hide, I think is somewhat disingenuous. I should mention, I want to add a slide to, Amazon Smile is being phased out. When I want a slide someday that says Amazon Frown, right? It was only a half of 1% to charity, and so it was, but in the grand scheme of things, it can mean tens of thousands of dollars for some larger charities that had gotten a lot of people to turn that feature on. But here's the thing: if we can build out direct sales to brands, they don't have to pay that 10, 15, 20% Amazon tax, if you will, right? So a lot, and if we can find ways that direct customers can come to these purpose-loving brands without having to have the entire margin spent on digital ads, that's how they can afford in some ways to give 5-10% to charity, right? Because they're saving it, by not having to, sell everything through Amazon. So that's one thing that's kind of notable, like, direct customers matter for brands. And if you have direct customers, that actually has saved them a ton, if it's come through things other than advertising. All right, so I'll give my mini demo, my 3-slide demo here. If you want to go in more detail, we have a video demo, we have slides. The general idea is that the GoodCarts app is about recycling some of the traffic from member stores based on circles. We have different themes, from Shop for Good, Made in USA. I would love a Made in Canada circle. We need partners. And we do a Black-owned circle, actually, in partnership with Shopify and Operation Hope. They launched an initiative called the 1 Million Black Businesses Initiative, and we're partnering with them around promoting that to all the Black-owned brands that join us, but also go through the 1MBB training program. We're very bullish on, basically, in this case, empowering the founders and the brands to say, hey, who do we want to grow with? How can we grow together? Recycles our customers, if you will. And so that's kind of, how, in a nutshell, how GoodCarts works. It's a free service with some upgrade opportunities now. But what I've really loved about being involved in this space is all the different exciting founders that we get to exchange with, right, and engage with. And the reason we have all this content that we're producing on our website for you and everyone who's part of our network or not, is that because we're powered by the post-checkout traffic of our members, we've realized that we need to help them gain new customers any way possible. And so whatever whether it be SEO tips on Shopify to picking out digital ad tools to hiring great digital ad agencies, we have a strong incentive to help them, and we share that on our site. So what happens with GoodCarts is that if you click through an invitation on the receipts of our member stores, you have a brand discovery moment. And as I like to say to brands, are you interested in reaching conscious consumers in a buying mood with their credit cards still out, who vitally are willing to shop from independent businesses? That's what we have on our network. And so, check it out. I will mention now, just as a side, unfortunately, I can't say the company we're working with at this point. It's not officially announced, but we're working with a top 10 e-commerce brand in North America on a DEI initiative where we are curating and inviting in, it's invite only currently, a collection of BIPOC-owned brands that will be introduced post-checkout to the customers from this major e-commerce site. They have 5 million shoppers on the site a day, and typical percentage will click through, and then we're not sure exactly how much exposure we'll get over the next 3 months, but we're super excited. And what we've discovered is that if we figure out how to basically collect discounts based on themes, that has value. And so we're thinking a lot along the lines of how can we get more boosts for brands based on themes: veteran-owned, Main Street Canada, Made in Canada. There's different things that we do economic development-wise. Indigenous-owned, for example, is just spilled my water. Hold on here. Indigenous-owned is an area where we've been working with a lot of different organizations, both in the U.S. and Canada, around a potential circle in that space. All right, so a couple of rising options here. I don't have any nice screenshots yet. I just want to give a little shout out here. One of my favorites, one of my biggest concerns is, like, I go to all these print-on-demand sites, right? And, when you log into Shopify, the first thing one of the things they do, there's a lot of it's drop shipping and print-on-demand, and it's kind of the lowest, accessible point, like, to getting into e-commerce without having to have your own product. Or with print-on-demand, it's that you have the creative, but you don't have to. It'll be printed somewhere else and shipped for you. It's kind of pretty clever. And so there are a whole bunch of print-on-demand networks. And what I would love to find, and I'm hoping I found these two, but looking at them yesterday, is Nova Tomato, and there's a sustainable print-on-demand. It's called Teami, T-Mill in the UK, where they're actually focusing specifically on sustainable fabrics and product, rather than it just being an option. And so, I want to give a shout out to those two. So if you're kind of looking for the lightest way to get involved, and you have a lot of creative, I would say go, attempt to find a more sustainably framed print-on-demand service, rather than just one that happens to have some fair trade cotton available, or organic cotton, or really think about supporting the businesses that are trying to do it soup to nuts. All right, the other one is a new sort of ally of ours. They actually just sent a note this morning saying there's a Canadian company interested in GoodCarts. Can we make an introduction? It's interesting, like, when our the whole grow together, win together theme of GoodCarts. This is one of the closer things to that, but in an analog sense. And they're hoping to expand into North America, and it's called My Flyer Inserts. And in this case, you basically you subscribe to the service, and then you can match make with other brands in order to print and then basically put flyers in each other's boxes. So a great way to save on postage, and for brands of a similar kind to connect and work with each other. The other thing I just want to mention, I don't have an app for this, but it's kind of it's one area where I'm increasingly interested and would love your thoughts or input on. But we have a draft article basically on the theme of made local, buy local. I'm kind of inserting discovered local in there, trying to gather advice for basically e-commerce brands, or maybe it's maybe you sell at the farmers market mostly. You want to sell in e-commerce. Yes, it'd be nice to sell across the country, across the continent, but maybe there's some ways that we can actually create greater opportunities for you to sell your product post-pandemic when people have kind of left the discovery mode online, but for pickup in your neighborhood, or for pickup in your community, or delivery or shipping in a local space. Hands down, if people can find a product in their own metro that's made primarily of local products, that's going to be far more sustainable than shipping around the world a sustainably made product, right? You know what I mean? So that's something I'm interested in. And if any of you have know of apps or services that should be in the next version of the slide deck, send them my way. All right, I just need to do a little time check here. How am I doing? Okay, so now one of the things I just want to mention, and these are basically quickly go through some of these slides, is that it's one thing to sort of add an app, if you will, to make your brand more impact oriented. But there's also basically, how do you actually become a more impact centered brand and basically build that impact into the actual product? And so we look for that in terms of the folks that join into GoodCarts, and so is really our sustainability frame circle. So I just want to sort of challenge you to sort of say, apps are nice, but what can you do? Just write down through your entire business model. So to help you with that, I'm a link sharer. So again, it's goodcarts.co/building, and you can go in here and dig into some of these resources from your supply chain to sourcing raw materials to connecting with your peers. Super important. We do have notably a wholesale directory. So say, for example, you're thinking about creating like an ethically framed marketplace. These are members of GoodCarts actually that also sell wholesale. goodcarts.co/wholesale. We want to help them out any way we can. And think about, instead of drop shipping with just stuff shipped from across the ocean, where you don't know about the environmental standards by which it was manufactured, maybe you could find some greener products that are manufactured within North America. All right. And I mentioned we also have good guides and the like. So we do have on our website, it's called our Insights blog. These are our top 8 of our 25 most popular posts. Again, go on in here. There's all kinds of great resources. I just want to point out that you are not alone. And one of the ways not to be alone is to do 2 things. One, if you like podcasts, check out our podcast directory, goodcarts.co/podcasts. And from there, you can go in and you can basically find all kinds of great resources that will help you tune in to, examples of founders being interviewed and the like. Also, we have, we need to update it in the sense that it's like almost 2 years old now, but top 17 ethical and sustainable retail influencers. These are the folks that we went through them one at a time. They share on LinkedIn, they share on Instagram. They're not just sort of a black box of, of a brand with a nice website. They actually are really individuals that if you follow them, they're going to tell you the story as they go along. So we love that stuff. Finally, seek allies, partners. These are all the folks that we work with, are trying to work with, and encourage you to sort of get into that community, find your place, find where your peeps are, if you will. And another way to do that is to find online groups. We went through hundreds of online groups that related to sort of impact in e-commerce and the like, and not all of them are obviously, commerce related, but our favorites are listed here. They're all listed from goodcarts.co/groups. And that's it. So go on in there, and we have some time for questions, and I look forward to